Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk to you about Blue State.
Blue State, Kent State.
The
Is that
the
what
no
they're
the
called? The Blue State.
the no the 2007 romantic comedy with Breckenmeyer and Anna Paquin. Isn't that
Yeah, no,
I did I
that's
did
not.
research. I watched the movie. Isn't that what we're talking about? What are we talking
No,
about?
we are talking about a ye olden time where we thought it was a good idea to engage protesters quite literally with a bayonet.
Oh
And by
God! So all right,
bayonet,
so
I
we're
mean
heading back
this guy here. No, not way back,
long
not
time ago.
1700s, not
Why?
1700s. I mean
That's
this guy, the
hold on.
M1.
That's not a
That's World War II era.
bayonet.
Yeah.
That's a knife on the end of a gun. Bayonets are
Yeah.
like
It's called a
triangular point. That's a knife.
no.
That's a
That's
Bowie
that's
knife
a
almost.
that's well, since it's on the end of a gun, we call it a bayonet.
I mean, I guess
So
just duct tape whatever the hell you want. Duct tape a spear on the end of
so
that.
we are
What are you
talking
talking?
about the we're talking about the Kent State massacre or the May 4th
Kent
massacre or the
State.
Kent
Okay.
State shooting, depending on what you want to refer to it. And it was a time that the Ohio state officials decided that it would be appropriate to respond to a series of protests in 1970 by unleashing the National Guard with loaded M1 Grands with fixed bayonets. And then we're surprised that, unarmed people wound up getting shot.
Unarmed people, of course.
Yeah,
Uh,
unarmed people
okay,
wound up getting shot.
but for everybody watching this now, before 2020, it was pretty unusual to see the government just start opening fire of stuff on peaceful protesters.
Yeah, sure.
Somewhat, in a
Yeah,
little bit.
we never had a history of
We,
we never
we
had a
don't do
history of
that.
that.
That's ridiculous. That's police brutality. We don't do
That's
that.
that's something that happens in China, not in the
Yeah.
United States. Well, it did happen here in the United States. So some
One
background
time.
information.
One time.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. I will never do another episode on protests resulting in people getting killed. Okay,
Peaceful
so
protests and yeah. Okay.
peaceful
Anyway.
protests. Well, that's it. I just like my Boston Massacre episode. I will give due credit where credit is due, and I will explain the whole story as best I
Yeah.
can, so that you can come up to your own opinion at home as to whether or not force was justified.
Yeah.
In Boston Massacre, I argued that it was like not necessarily justified, but like, what did you expect was going to
You can
happen?
understand
And
where
in this
people might have.
particular situation, I'm a little less understanding, but we'll get there.
Okay, so
So,
I know that it was a massacre, or that Kent State Massacre is a term. I don't know much beyond
yeah.
it about
So
it
let's get
beyond that.
yeah, let's get in some background before this episode gets too terribly long. So how the heck did this happen? So the Vietnam War is going on; it's in full swing in 1970. Nixon gets elected, and partially on the pretext that he's going to end the war. And if history has taught me anything, if you ever elect a president who says, I'm going to end the war, he's not going to end the war. It hasn't happened. We've never had a president that's like, I'm going to end it, and then it ends. It just doesn't happen.
Bush, mission accomplished.
I think he
Trump,
started that one,
or
though.
checkmate.
Yeah, right. Anyways, so and Nixon started off like, yeah, I'm going to do that. However, the shortly after he was elected, there was the My Lai massacre that became public in November of 1969, where American soldiers killed at least 340 South Vietnamese, including women and children, and that became public. So Nixon would do the rational thing and pull our troops home. But not really. What he actually did is decide that we needed to go invade Cambodia in addition to Vietnam. So,
Just
yeah.
No, I do remember hearing that a large part of the Vietnam's America's failure or inability to win, or why people didn't want to be drafted to go die in a war that they didn't understand why they were fighting, was because we had now had coverage of it, widespread coverage of it for the first time, and so
I
people could find out about things like this massacre.
yeah, I would say that definitely has some impact in it, but know that at this point in time, this isn't a very popular war, and people are protesting
Yeah.
it. So. Also, in December of 1969, the first draft lottery occurs, and that's where, before there was like a draft, but it wasn't like an actual lottery system. This is the first draft lottery where if your if your number got pulled, sorry about you.
So how did the
And
draft
and,
work
and
before
naturally,
that?
there were like exclusions to it that you could get out of it.
Okay.
But this is an actual like lottery where
This
like
is just
random
you get your
birth
number
dates are
picked and you're gone,
birth
and
dates are
that's it.
birth dates are pulled, and anybody with that birth date is gone. Well, any man with that birth date is
Of
gone
course.
because
Yeah.
you know
Someone had to
women
take care
can't
of the
fight.
homes.
So obviously people are a little irritated. In fact, protests had already started in Kent State's, on their campus all the way back to 1966 when a group of students wore military equipment and gas masks to homecoming. Today we just kind of consider that a normal
You're just being
homecoming in the
safe.
United States.
Yeah, you're,
Yeah.
you're just thank you for
Especially
following
with
COVID protocols, and we appreciate
Yeah, right?
it. Well done.
Hi-oh! In 1968, a group of students for the Democratic Society and 250 black students had a sit-in protest against, police recruiters and military recruiters on campus. So, in the 1960s, we can't have white people teaming up with black people. That doesn't.
Well,
we can't do that in the United
no,
States.
you can have separate but equal, and that's good. But
But you
yeah.
can't have them teaming up. Yeah.
No, yeah, we don't want to have any sort of perception that they're getting along and agreeing and can cohabitate with each other, and just be fine as normal human beings. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous. We can't have that. On April 1st, 1969, the SDS, which is the Students for Democratic Society, they attempted to enter the administration building with a list of demands where they were met with police resistance. In response, Kent State revoked the SDS charter on campus. How dare you demand anything of us? Now,
Wait,
they
tried to storm an official building and were met with police
Yeah, they tried to-
resistance?
they tried to
Man,
storm the
times have
administration.
changed.
Yeah, they tried to storm the administration building with us. Now, so me and Johnny, we went to a fairly white, rich school, Hanover
Oh,
College.
the Harvard of the Midwest, as
Harvard of the Midwest,
many
yes,
refer to
as
it.
some people.
The Harvard
nobody refers to it.
of small liberal arts 3A
Schools in Indiana.
schools.
Like there was a rumor that like,
Specifically in
we were
that
going to
city.
become Ivy Tech, like not Ivy Tech. We're going to become Ivy League. I remember that rumor that was going around Hanover. I'm like, you guys are stupid. That's not how this.
You don't know
Anyways,
what D3
so,
is. Anyway.
Yeah, you don't know what D3 means. So, in any case, we went to a rich school, and part of one of my sociology projects is that we were supposed to, like in my senior year, supposed to come up with some kind of like protest thing or something, some social rights movement thing or something or another. So the campus had hiked our tuition up considerably our junior year, and like we did, like I didn't actually give a shit.
Oh.
But that's what I protested. I wanted to know why, like where was the money, because they didn't disclose where the money was going, and so
Private
me and
institution, they don't have to.
a fellow, yeah, they don't have to. Me and a fellow student, we got mad. We went to the administration. We're like, you gotta tell us where the money is.
And they're like,
I really didn't give a shit. And they're like, no, but we got a meeting with them. We got a meeting with them, and it was great, and it was so
Hey.
productive, like all other protests are. And by that meeting is they gave us a PowerPoint demonstration of where the money was going, and in it was this large, like 25% other expenses, and in that other expenses was another subcategory of other expenses, and in that other expenses was another subcategory of other expenses. It's like, I really don't think you're giving us any information.
I feel like one other expenses is enough. That's just.
I feel like,
And what other expenses? Where are you going with that? But in any case,
But my point with that is all like, yeah, student protests. Like we didn't get raided by the police. They didn't beat us down.
No, and
although
see-
we were white. So
well,
there's
I
that.
think a big problem with projects like that is the reason we saw the protests like we did this year is because we have literally, colleges have been training kids that protests are productive and they work and they do this, that, or the other, and a lot of times they do, maybe they don't, I don't know, whatever. But
I don't think they do.
They
but that's
got them
beside the
all.
point.
They got our generation all gung ho about protests, and then like people found something to protest.
Which,
They're like,
if
I'm gonna
we
go
would've-
and do it. Let's go.
If we would have spent 5 minutes learning about those protests, like actual protests,
What
like
happened to
maybe
the people
the
doing
Kent
them?
State protest,
Yeah, we like, ooh.
they would know that no, like that what happened this year in 2020 shouldn't have surprised anybody
What
at
do you
all.
mean rubber
So-
bullets, tear gas, and fire hoses hurt?
Well, funny story. This incident is why we did that. But we'll
Why
get
we
there. We'll
use
get there.
those?
Yeah, why we use those now. We'll get there. We'll get there. So on April 16th, 1969, there was a disciplinary hearing for several students in the SDS that resulted in a pro-SDS and anti-SDS group getting in conflict with each other on campus. The highway patrol was
great.
called in, where 58 people were arrested. 4 SDS leaders spent 6 months in jail for the incident. On April 10th,
These
1970,
are big groups.
These are big groups, yeah. On April 10th, it's a big campus. It's not
Yeah,
Hanover.
right. Yeah, I'd say that's my problem. I always harken back to our
Hanover
1,000
days.
student campus, and I'm like, if you got like half the campus together and the other half the campus like to go against each other on something, that would be amazing. First of all, but if you were able to, even then, it'd be like 2 arrests because it'd get broken up
Now,
so
we
fast.
our college students were too busy throwing oranges at trash cans, literally throwing oranges at trash cans, because
Sometimes they almost got them in there though, from far away too.
sometimes.
It was like Dude Perfect before YouTube was a thing, but less good.
Yeah, that's good. So on April 10th, 1970, a guy by the name of Jerry Ribbon, who was a leader of the Youth International Parties, a.k.a. the Yippies, so come up with a better name, you asshole, he spoke on campus saying that, and I quote, "The first part of the Yippie program is to kill your parents. They are the first oppressors." So
What?
we do have
Kill
freedom
your
of speech
parents?
in the United States. Kill your parents. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. Yeah. So we do have freedom of speech in the United States, but you can't threaten to kill people. Yeah. And if you're threatening to kill your parents, at that point, I can understand why campus is like, maybe we should have some police on standby because these guys are a little.
Yeah, perhaps freedom of speech and all that. Perhaps some sort of regulation might be necessary if people are going to be threatening violence all the time and wanting to kill their parents and instruct others to do so as well.
Yes, yeah. Yep.
Which is
Also,
worse.
at the same time, 2 weeks later, there's a man by the name of Bill Anthril who was distributing flyers that said that they were going to napalm a dog. Now, what this turned out to be was a shock value flyer thing that was an anti-napalm demonstration. He didn't actually napalm a dog, but it got me too. But again, it's one of those, you can't threaten to hurt. You definitely in the United States, you definitely can't threaten to hurt dogs. We don't
You
like
can
that
threaten people
unless,
before dogs.
unless your name's Michael Vick, and we'll forget you because you're a really good quarterback, and we'll let you come
Well,
back to the
no,
league
a
couple years later.
Don't be ridiculous. Money and talent has always trumped every sort of moral objection to anything.
Yeah, we do have that.
I mean, hell, look at Trump's presidency.
So that's a brief history. But we are apolitical. I'm going to take this moment to talk about Terre Haute Brewing Company's Madam Brown Ale. They did not pay me for this spot, but I'm going to take a sip of it because it's my first time drinking any Terre Haute beer.
Sitting at the
And like the city of Terre Haute, slightly disappointing. Not bad, just
smells kind of weird and doesn't taste quite right.
Doesn't taste. Yeah, that's
Terre Haute.
Terre Haute, Indiana, for you guys. Now, so that's a brief history of the protests that were going on in Kent State on the campus. So how do we get to the massacre? It all starts on April 30th when Nixon announces that the Cambodian incursion has kicked off and that we've already sent troops into Cambodia, thus expanding the Vietnam War beyond its current areas of campaign.
Yeah.
And that threw a lot of the. And the college kids don't like that because a lot of them are of the age where they could be drafted.
Yeah. If their birthday gets picked, then they're hosed, basically.
Yeah. Pretty much. They don't like that, and a lot of the nation doesn't like that. And after all, he was supposed to end he was the chosen one. He's supposed to end the conflict, not extend it.
You were the chosen one. It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them. Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness.
Right. And now he's attacking Cambodia for whatever reason one would be attacking Cambodia when they're involved with
reasons.
Just
too much to go into for this episode. Yeah, just know that Cambodia's kicked off, and we don't like that. So on May 1st, the day after this is announced, We'll cover it in the future. We will cover it in the future. On May 1st, the day after this is announced, a group of 500 students gathered in the Commons, also known as the Grassy Knoll. Grassy Knolls! People, nothing bad happens in Grassy Knolls!
I'm sorry. I'm dumb. Was this pre or post?
This is post Grassy Knoll.
Yeah, because that was like in
JFK's already. Yeah, he's already
60s.
Yeah, JFK 60s, but
Okay.
JFK's already got the
Yeah, all right. So
to the back of the head.
So this is just an unfortunate leftover name that has probably been that for 30, 40, 50, however many years Kent State's been around.
Yeah.
But they're gathering at the Grassy Knoll. Okay.
Which is an area that was traditionally used for, student gatherings, protests, that kind of stuff.
It's the big
Now-
green center space in the middle of college campuses.
The campus, yeah, it's our quad that we have.
Yeah.
Yep. The history students, you gotta love history students. They take things so literally that they buried a copy of the Constitution because, after all, Nixon just killed the Constitution, so they have to bury it because it's dead.
So they have their. So this is why all the protests get made fun of, because they have their hippy dippy gesture of performing a funeral for the Constitution because it was symbolically destroyed by Nixon, because in the Constitution it says you can't take backsies on saying you'll pull out of a war.
I guess
that's like Amendment 13 or 14 or something, right?
That's yeah.
Around there. I don't know.
8.3, I think,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. No takes backsies.
Yeah, no takesy backsies on war withdrawals.
A sign was posted asking why the ROTC building was on campus and why it was still standing. Now, if you don't know, if you don't know what it is, the ROTC is the Reserve Officer Training Corps. So on most college campuses, the military likes to recruit you, and if you want to choose that as a path, you can go into what's called the ROTC, which allows you to
a lot of high schools too.
A lot of high schools have them too. So it's a military path, and it's supposed to be designed to train men or girls into being officers.
Yeah,
so,
my memory of the ROTC is them coming into our lunch common area and having students do 25 push-ups or something, and then telling them that they could be a great soldier, and then the brainwashing commences from there. But my high school did not have an ROTC, and Hanover did not have an ROTC, except for that one guy on campus who would walk around. He was our personal.
Remember what I'm talking about? Yeah, he was our personal. He always was wearing military stuff, and it was yes, sir. Every history class I had with him, and I
was
remember
never
I had
scared
a military.
for our campus.
No, I was never either.
Being invaded.
I had a military history class with him, and we played this little war game with these little military guys. And all I remember is that I kicked the shit out of him in that game. And I'm like, so maybe.
Well, you don't have his gruff though, Tommy, and that's
I didn't.
A key ingredient to actual battle in war. You can't judge it on a video game or a board game, even. Yeah.
Or it could have been all the years of Total War that I played that kind of let me know how to. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Now, by 1 p.m., that crowd that had gathered had dispersed because college campus and there's classes going on. They have to get to class.
They got somewhere to be. and okay, to be fair, probably at least 150 of these people gathering were walking by and then saw a group. They're like, "Oh, what is there a concert? What are we doing?" And then just showed up.
Yeah. We had a lot of, even at Hanover, a small campus, if there was 20 people standing somewhere on campus, naturally, that would get people to come because they're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, well, it's a human psychology study of people looking up, people just stopping in a crowd and looking up at a mall, and then everybody looks up. It's psychology.
Yep.
Look it up.
Now they did call, before they left, they did call for some more formal protests on May 4th. That evening on May 1st, around midnight, a group of people leave a bar, and they're a little rowdy because they've been drinking all night long, and they begin throwing beer bottles at cop cars and smashing storefront windows, and they wound up breaking a bank's window, which obviously set the bank alarm off, so that encouraged all the local police to come out and play.
I'm sorry.
By the time,
this is not college shenanigans. That is destruction of property and looting, preemptive looting or whatever. It's something that's worse than just being. I've been rowdy Tommy, I've not broke
This
business
is,
windows.
this is a bit more radical. Yeah, by the time the police arrive, a crowd of over 100 people have gathered, which was a mixture of students, bikers, and I quote, transients, a.k.a. the dirty hippies. So this is the word that we use for anybody that was the undesirables back in the 1970s and 1960s.
Transients?
Yeah, transients.
It's a good word.
When the police arrive, the crowd begins throwing beer bottles at the police, and begin using obscenities. So they call
assault.
them dirty pigs. Yeah, assault. Yes, this is definitely
That
assault.
is assault.
You can't do this. If you're in
anybody.
a protest and you start hucking beer bottles at people, you're no longer in a protest. You're now in a riot, and you can't do this.
I'm guessing this earlier you hinted that this is part of the reason we have the things we have today. But if you start throwing beer bottles at cops today, be fully prepared to catch a tear gas canister in the chest. They're going to put it on their little modified shotgun, and they're just going to shoot it straight at you.
It's going to go. You're going to hear boom, and then about 2 seconds later, you're going to hear ah.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and then
not fun.
the wheezing from the broken ribs after that.
Which they're not supposed to shoot it. They're supposed to shoot at the ground and ricochet it at you.
I just told you what's going to happen, not what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, they forget that step.
You start throwing a beer bottle, that's going into your chest.
You're definitely gonna catch a tear gas round to the chest. Now, all of Kent police were called to duty. Like even if you're off duty, which would piss me off. Like if I'm sleeping, like you've got to come in. Like local sheriffs were called in, other county sheriffs were called in, state troops were called in.
That makes sense. You have assault against police officers and a rowdy crowd.
So the city of Kent mayor, Leroy Santrum, he declares a state of emergency, which is probably okay because there is a riot. He also calls the Ohio governor, Jim Rhodes, and says, hey, can you guys help me out here? And they decide that the appropriate course of action is to shut down all the bars in town early. So that got even more drunk people who were in the bar.
So they forced
now rowdy
everybody
because
out.
they got them out of the bar into the streets where the riots are going on.
Okay, but the good thing about drunk people is they really, really don't tend to absorb the energy of the situation that they're in and start to mimic it. That is not a trait that drunk people have.
Nope.
And so this probably didn't lead to more chaos.
So the crowd was able to be dispersed eventually via war crimes. I mean, a tear gas that was shot into their chests.
Yeah.
So
allegedly,
that ends May 1st. Now on May 2nd, reports came flooding in from local store owners that said they were threatened by groups that any store not flying anti-war propaganda would be burned. Local police chief received.
Wait.
Yeah, if they
anti-war.
Anti-war.
These are people that are anti-war. So presumably, on account of the peacefulness that anti-war brings, and they are threatening to declare war on store owners if they don't
support their
want
viewpoint.
to be anti-war.
Yes. You're right, Johnny. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Now, the police chief also received a credible report that the ROTC building, recruitment office, and the post office were slated for destruction. Rumors flooded in that said outside groups were coming in hell-bent on destruction. So this is the 1970s equivalent of Antifa.
Yeah, this is just people. All right, we're gonna have people come in and create chaos, destroy things, and they're gonna basically organized riots at our colleges is what we're looking forward to.
There were unconfirmed rumors that students had large caches of weapons, which I guarantee you they did not have large caches of weapons. But there were reports that they had large caches of weapons.
I wanted to know how easy people think it is to gain a large cache of weapons. Is it that easy? Can it be that easy?
It's not cheap.
Right.
I mean, it's not.
And if there's one thing we know about college kids is they're all fucking loaded and can just buy whatever they want whenever they want it.
I can tell you that the collection of firearms that I have,
which could not be described as any sort
which could not be described at all as a large cache of weapons.
No, because it takes 18 minutes to load every one of them.
Why not this one? This
to load 80% of them.
This is about the most modern I have. But in any case, most of that has come within the last couple of years when they got married and have extra money. So
But yeah, it's
definitely not when
expensive.
I was
Like
in
that's
college. Definitely not when
college
I was
kids
in
aren't
college.
collecting caches of weapons, but they're
No.
treating this basically like it's a militia.
Yeah, they're saying that the
at
college
least
campus is a
staging it.
militia. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
staging it as this is a bunch of militant kids who have weapons and are arming up for the resistance.
Yes, there was a report that came in that said the students were planning to spike the water source in Kent with LSD. Now, I 100% believe that was a plan. I guarantee you that was a
Okay,
plan.
but that
Because
was
it's
not a
19
plan that was associated with this protest. They just thought
No,
it
that
would
was
be a
just
really
they're just
dope
like
thing
the
to
funny
do.
idea to. And to be fair, the government was already spiking the water source with LSD. So
I mean, hey, there all sorts of microdosing studies into LSD have shown it has tremendous benefits for those with anxiety and depression and other sort of psychosomatic type illnesses. So let's back off on saying that's a bad idea, depending on the strength of which they wanted to incidentally drug everybody on campus.
So Mayor Sandtrum, he would meet with local LEA and National Guard, who then called Governor Rhodes to request National Guard assistance, and the National Guard was deployed at 5 p.m. on May 2nd. It took till 10 p.m. for them to actually arrive because,
It's
you
the
gotta
National Guard, 2
find-
weekends a year,
you-
like
Yeah, you gotta find these
or
guys.
two weekends
Then
a
you
month,
gotta get 'em-
whatever.
Yeah, you gotta find them. Then you gotta get them report to their local headquarters, and then you gotta ship them out. and
Yeah,
give
they're like,
'em all
"Guy,
their
what
equipment
the?
and stuff."
I have seventh period at 2 p.m. What do you want me to do? I can't get a sub at this hour."
But by the time the National Guard actually did arrive to Kent State campus, there were protesters on Kent State, and the ROTC building was mysteriously burning.
Oh shoot! Do they have an electrical
So you
fire?
can't do that. You can't light buildings on fire and call it a
Hold up.
peaceful protest. Like you got beyond that.
Wait. I thought as long as what you were aiming for at the end of it was peace, anything you did during was a peaceful protest. Did I misconstrue that a little bit?
I think maybe, yeah.
Because burning
Now-
buildings doesn't sound super peaceful.
By the way, nobody was hurt in that burning building, and they never actually found out who caused the fire, although my money's on
Electrical.
somebody in that... Electrical, yeah. What could have been? If this was a building on Hanover's campus, it is entirely possible that was electrical.
I mean, I'm just saying. When did the last inspection occur for this building?
Yep, that's true.
Are
It's true.
the
Could've just all
records
been-
up to date? It seems
It could
to
have been
me
all
like
a-
it could have been accidental and just super
Those-
coincidental with the timing.
Yeah. Well, and they were in the fire that burned up, so that's why all the records are gone, right? Anyways, the reports were that the National Guard and firefighters were struck with rocks when they attempted to put out the fire.
come
Now, that part
on.
you can't do that. You can't, like, if it was accidental, it doesn't matter now that you threw
Rocks?
at the people trying to
You
put the
can't-
fire out. You
So
can't-
this,
you can't do
they're
that.
just assaulting. It's just the protesters' right to assault people is what this has become so far.
you can't, and you can't.
I
do
don't
that.
know
The
which
National
side you're
Guard-
trying to get me on as far as the right versus wrong thing goes, but right now all these protesters are kind of dicks.
Yeah, like so yes, exactly. Right now, I would say that this is very much like Boston Massacre. You've got protesters hucking bottles and rocks and
they're assaulting
ice balls
them.
at
and you have
the soldiers.
scared soldiers. Whatever.
They're not so. By the
They're
way, if you
National
don't,
Guard.
yeah. So if you're, we do have a lot of English listeners that we've noticed through the comments. So thank you from over the
National
seas to
Guard is
listen to
Army
how
light.
Americans-
It's cosplay Army almost, but not
yeah,
quite.
it's-
Like
it's
they still
cos-
do
yeah,
stuff.
we're
They do
not-
a lot, but it's more disaster relief than anything.
Yeah, it's not. They're not really soldiers. They're kind of, and I'm not.
Thank you for what you do, by the way.
Thank you,
National
but yeah, I'm
Guardsmen.
not.
It's amazing, but it's not. It's not Green Berets.
Yeah,
that
my
you're
brother was in the
sending
Navy. My brother's in the Navy
It's-
Reserve, or was in the Navy Reserves before he went full up, and he is love him to death. He's my brother, but he's not
Well,
who I would want
no, but
to
here's
be
the thing.
responding
Here's
to
the
a
thing
protest.
about it. A lot of the people doing National Guard type stuff are doing it for the college
college credits, yeah.
financial
Yep.
credits, whatever help that they get with that. And so, I mean, that's what
because
we're dealing
also
with.
if
It's not
because
it's not army military trained, like go to battle, go to war, deal with this situation. People, it's your neighbors.
also because we have to say that in the United States we have to pay for college. So one way that people pay for college is by joining the army. So that's just to clear up that confusion for our
or
foreign
National
listeners.
Guard. Yeah.
Or
But in
National
any
Guard.
case,
Yeah.
again, it goes back to this being kids, the age of the people that they're dealing with, and having to deal with an angry
Get
mob
with
of
rocks
their
thrown at- yeah.
peers assaulting
Hucking
them
rocks at them. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
rocks
Yep.
and bottles.
So the National Guard responds by making several arrests and dispersing the crowd with tear gas and fixing their bayonets and literally pushing them out of the quad.
Now that's where we're
and,
going to disagree a little bit.
That's where we disagree with. And one person is injured slightly by a bayonet, and I
Slightly?
joke because I joke because I say like that was probably a National Guardsman fixing the bayonet and cutting himself, but in
It might
reality
have
it was
been.
actually it was a student.
It was
that
a student. Oh,
poked.
okay.
It was a student that was poked a bit too hard. Now
That,
on May
that
3rd,
thought that maybe the knife on the end of their gun was not as sharp as they made it out to be.
By the
and
way,
got in the way.
this thing is sharp as shit.
Okay,
like
pro tip.
sharp as shit.
Pro tip: I poked a tiny screwdriver into my hand the other day, and it made me bleed. Things don't have to be super sharp to break skin and
make
jab
it- to
into
break
a
skin,
human being who has soft flesh all on the outside. It doesn't have to be super sharp when you have a javelin that you're ramming it with.
That's true. That's true.
Put a screwdriver on the end of it, and you're gonna puncture some people. That's all I'm saying.
So on May 3rd, Governor Rhodes is going to fly into Kent and give a speech against the protesters where he makes comments in the speech like, and I quote, "We've seen here at the city of Kent especially probably the most vicious form of campus-oriented violence yet perpetuated by a dissident group," which I kind of call bullshit on that. Like I'm pretty sure like we've seen worse protests than a couple of kids throwing stones, which they shouldn't do.
Yeah,
But
right.
I mean, it's not like nobody was shot.
This is what happens during
Yeah.
protest riot type stuff. Is people are gonna throw shit.
He also says things like, "We're going to use every part of the law enforcement agency of Ohio to drive them out of Kent. We're going to eradicate the problem. We're not going to treat the symptoms," because that's the American way.
Wait, I'm
And
sorry.
they're,
Wait, he said,
He says, and I quote, we are going to eradicate the problem, not treat the symptoms. And I quote, they
I
are
thought
the
you
worst
were
type of
messing
people.
with me. What?
No, that's what he
What?
says that. No,
but
he says that.
The
He says, and I quote, "They are the worst type of people that we harbor in America." And I quote, "I think that we're up against the strongest, well-trained, militant, revolutionary group that has ever assembled in America. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure we fought a war against the British, and they were probably a little bit better trained and more organized because, we exist as a country now because they beat the British. They weren't a bunch of, well, I mean, they were a bunch of college students, but they weren't like, it's different. It's not this. It's not
Okay.
this."
but did he since the country started? So that was before technically.
Oh, okay, whatever. All right, so fine. I'm
So
still.
I'm gonna give that one to him. But I'm
the dirty,
but actually, I'm
the
guessing
dirty
there
rebels,
were more.
Johnny. The dirty rebels that fought against the Constitution of the United States. I would say are a little bit more better organized and trained than these college students.
Well,
Now,
slightly.
results are going to be about the same. Anyways, Rhodes, he gave the impression that the city was under martial law and that he was going to obtain a court order declaring a state of emergency and banning further protests. However,
Gave
he,
the impression.
he gave the impression because he didn't actually ever obtain that court order and never actually had the legal merit to for a court order to be issued.
So he's
for
just
it.
lying
So,
to people.
So he's just lying to people.
Just bluffing.
During the day, some students came to downtown to assist the cleanup efforts from the day before, so good on them. Although they were mixed with a little bit of hesitation, like, Timmy, didn't I see you yesterday smashing the window that you're sweeping up now? I mean, thank you for cleaning it up, but why did you break it to begin with?
Well, I mean, you've been to college now. You get caught up in the moment. Both moments. Not only the wild let's assault police officers with bottles and rocks, but also the oh hey guys, oh we're all cleaning up the campus. Let's do good things. Like you get swept up in it. What are you gonna do?
You get swept up. Yeah. Either way, I never got swept up in cleaning up anything. I never volunteered.
Well, I
for
also
shit
never
at
broke
Hanover.
windows. So what are you gonna do? Like I mean,
No, but we did throw up a lot, and we never cleaned that up. But we did it outside, so that was
yeah, into the grass.
it's
Like,
bird
that
food.
was
Yeah,
that was for
bird
the
food.
birds.
The vomit breathing dragon over the balconies. Anyways, so Mayor Santrum, he did issue a curfew in effect, but at 8 p.m., another group of demonstrators started to gather on campus.
Breaking curfew,
And they were
likely
not yet. Curfew was 9, so they hadn't broke curfew
9.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 9 or 10. So they hadn't broke curfew yet. They were expecting that the school administrators were going to talk with them, but they never showed up because they were never going to talk to them.
No, don't be ridiculous. Talk to a bunch of children? Are you kidding me? Why? About what? They want a book read to them?
Like, and it's like, what do you expect? Like, the college doesn't control who gets drafted or who doesn't, or whether there's a war or not. Like, that's not, like, you want to talk about more reasonable study hours, we can...
Right? But, yeah, that's the other thing.
Come on.
The college students, they don't know. Like, they know that they should protest, that they don't like it, and that they have to talk to somebody, and their only authority figure that they have any access to is their school. That has no control over the problem. This is
where the whole like what they're doing is wrong, but there's that thought like is it just kind of dumb.
Cognitive
there's that disconnect. There's just that. No, but yeah, it's just like it just doesn't. There's a disconnect there. Anyways, by 8:45.
Well, like I said, they know they should do it, but they don't know how. Like what?
But their authority.
What's the result? How do you get a result, and what does it look like to solve your problem? If you don't know what it looks like to solve your problem, nobody's going to be able to help you.
Nobody's help you. No. So by 8:45, the guardsmen use tear gas again and. The bayonet to literally push them off campus.
Now, tear gas has been outlawed in the use of the Vietnam War, of which they're protesting, right?
Yes, you can't use it in Vietnam War, but you can use it against the protesters.
I think that's an important thing to point out to people who might not know.
You can't use tear gas is definitely a war crime if used in an act of war.
Also, now, to this day.
Yeah, to this day, you can't. You
can't use it but our police forces across America use it at a drop of
across
a hat.
the world. They use it across the police forces across the world use it. We're not saying this, but yes.
I'm not here to claim what other people are doing. I'm a United States citizen. I'll watch them.
So the police push them off campus, where they assemble on Main Street and Lincoln Street, and just kind of sit down and block traffic because that'll show you.
Lincoln Street?
Yeah, Lincoln Street and Main Street on the corner.
If you tell me they're shot, it's because they're trying to be.
At 11 o'clock, the National Guard is enforcing the curfew and literally pushes them back to their dorm rooms by bayonet, which is the funniest thing I've ever read in my life, because I can only imagine, think about being on Hanover campus and campus police fixing bayonets and you guys gotta go back to your dorm room and literally pushing them back into the dorm. It's funny to me.
Maybe get a pitchfork.
But it shouldn't
just as effective and less lethal.
I do have to note that there were several students that got injured because pokey. So it is funny.
Knives will do that to you.
People.
No, of course it's awful. This entire thing is awful. It has the word massacre in it. But what are we doing? Here's the thing. What are we doing using bayonets as a police weapon?
Yep.
When it's combined with tear gas, is the tear gas not enough to disperse a crowd? You have to tear gas them, make them blind, and then start stabbing them with the Bowie knives you have on the end of your gun, because that's not a traditional bayonet.
Uh, on May 4th, the governor alluded to the protest being banned, and campus officials handed out 12,000 leaflets banning any protest. But either the students didn't care, didn't get the message, or said, "Hey, my constitutional right says I have the right to peacefully assemble," which they do, but you can't.
I was gonna say, or they
point,
read the First Amendment in their government 100 class.
Yeah, but I think all the protests leading up to this point would prove that they weren't peacefully assembling at this point. So,
well,
yeah,
okay, no. It proved that they weren't peacefully assembling before. It didn't prove that this next one that they were planning would not be peaceful. You can't bar freedom of speech just by saying, well, maybe your next time you say this exact same thing that you were saying before won't be different. You know, they're like, yeah, it's gonna be different. We'll adhere to the laws.
Right. So around 2,000 people started gathering on the campus at the University Commons near Taylor Hall, and they began ringing the campus bell, which was the iron bell that they used to celebrate football victories. Again, here's the disconnect. These are students that are like, I'm mad at the war, so I'm going to ring the football victory bell.
No.
The fuck?
No, but here's the thing. That's not what it was. It was college students given an opportunity to ring the bell that they were like, that was some sacred thing for their school. It's like we used to climb up to the top of the clock tower.
Whoa, we never climbed. We never broke any rules of climbing to the top of the clock tower and then calling campus police and telling them that the car was broken into across campus because they caught us. But then the broken in car was more important than us being up at the top. Yeah, that never happened.
I didn't
never
do that.
Happened.
I just happened to unloosen all of the bolts because they eventually locked it down with a little trap lock. But all you had to do was take the bolts off, so we did that. And then open up the trap. But in any case, I'm pretty sure statute of limitations is up on something like that, right?
Up on some. Well, sadly
Hanover
enough,
College, this
my
is all
favorite,
satire if you're listening.
Yeah,
I
satire.
didn't do it.
Companies AC of the 145th Infantry and Troop G of the 107th Armored Cavalry were dispatched to disperse the crowd. The legality of this was in question, but the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals at a later date would rule that they had the right to do so because, stones and buildings being burned are kind of,
Cavalry is horses, right?
Yeah, ponies, although it's armored cav, so at this point it's not ponies, it's like armored vehicles.
Oh, okay.
No tanks, though. No,
Okay.
just
just
tanks.
armored.
Some
But,
Jeeps.
okay, but they're not just
Jeeps. But
releasing people on horses.
no, not that I don't think so.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but whatever. It's not important. The pony guys the pony guys don't shoot, so they're fine. So early in the morning, campus patrolman Harold Rice rode onto a national Jeep, like he's on a national Jeep truck, and he's driving in front of the crowd with a loudspeaker saying, "You guys have to disperse or face arrest." The crowd does what a normal college crowd would do when the campus security guy tells them to disperse, and they just flat out ignore him and start to boo. But this is where it gets not good. They start hucking rocks and bricks at him and hit him. So
what's with
that? Do that?
What's with the rocks, guys? Why?
So obviously
the rocks hurt. That's legit.
He gets back into the Jeep and he retreats. Right before noon, the National Guard returns. Like they come out. The Company A and Company C come out, and they start shooting war crimes into the crowd. But it's ineffective because there's a lot of wind. So these students
just
start
blow it
taking
away
these,
right away.
Yeah, it gets blown away. So they start taking these tear gas canisters and bricks and hucking them back at the National Guard, who are wearing gas masks, so they're fine.
Right? Yeah.
Except that doesn't.
But also still
get hit with a rock.
Also still not battle hardened soldiers that are ready for this. Your son's second grade teacher who did it to pay for their education. That's who is there firing the gas canister war crimes into this crowd and getting them chucked back at them.
Yep. So they're also screaming, obscenities like "pigs get off campus" because it's the 1970s and that's the thing that they're pigs.
Yeah,
like, I mean, come on, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. So a group of 77 guardsmen from Company A and Company C, they fixed their bayonets like they have done the last couple of nights, and they pushed the crowd over Blanket Hill not to be confused with Bunker Hill.
No.
Two totally different things.
Right,
But
Blanket Hill.
they push him over. They push him over Blanket Hill, and the crowd went left over the hill towards Taylor Hall. But the guardsmen continued going on straight because they didn't really see where the crowd dispersed to, and they wound up running into a chain link fence right around the practice field, practice sports field.
What how do you not see? You're
I don't
chasing
know.
something specific, and then it goes in a direction. And they just kept going straight, and then
They kept going straight,
and they're like,
until they got
the football
and they
stadium.
get cornered. They get cornered,
There it is.
between this fence and what winds up being a crowd of students kind of corner them, which is no bueno. I mean, to be fair, like that's no bueno.
Well, that's
And
a
if the
scary
shooting
spot to be
occurred-
in for all the National
Yeah.
Guardsmen. Yeah, no
and if the
doubt.
shooting occurred there, I would not agree with it, but I would
But you get
understand
it.
where that. I get it.
You get
But it
why
doesn't occur-
somebody who is so scared that they would have accidentally or
'Cause
maybe
they're
personally
caught-
pulled their trigger
Yeah, they're
defending their life.
Yeah, which by the way, that's like a 10-pound trigger pull on that thing. You're not accidentally pulling. It's
Yeah.
a military.
Also,
rifle.
you have a
You
knife
don't
on the
accidentally
front of it.
pull. Yeah,
You
they
have
got
a knife. Just
pokey
do
pokey,
that.
right? Now, most of the crowd had actually already dispersed at this point. Once the bayonets once they were pushed off the hill with bayonet, a lot of the crowd was already gone.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of those people that's gone. As soon
Yeah,
as
I'm
the bayonet's pulled out,
But they, like I said, they were boxed in by the practice field in the parking lot, and several times the guardsmen would kneel, point their guns at the crowd, that was around the parking lot, but no shots are fired at this point. At one point, the group huddled, the group of guardsmen would huddle and were observed talking with each other, like, what the hell do we do now?
well,
We
right,
kinda,
yeah, they got to figure
how
out.
do we get at, like, where are we on campus? How do
If-
we get back to where we need to be? Like,
Well, and they have to
like-
all be on the same page as to what's going on with their strategy, right? Like that's
Yeah, so they got their
normal.
battle plan, and their battle plan is that they're gonna retrace their steps, climb back up the hill. Where as they're climbing back up Blanket Hill, some of the guardsmen turn around to keep their eyes on the crowd, and that's over by Pretense Hall parking lot. When at 12:24, well, the shit hits the fan, and by shit hits the fan, I mean the National Guard is going to claim that they took shots from a sniper.
they
There's no-
received
That
a
that they got shot at by
shot
a sniper. Yeah.
that killed one of their men or shot at or hit.
And there is
or,
there is absolutely no evidence to back that up because no guardsman was shot
a
and
sniper from
and
a
no
college.
there's no there's no proof of that ever happening. But that's what they claim happened. And according to an eyewitness, a Sergeant Myron Pryor turned while he was on the hill, turned towards the crowd and began firing his 1911 pistol into the crowd. After the first shot, at least 29 of the 77 guardsmen would open up fire. Some shot into the air, others shot into the crowd. 67 rounds, Johnny, were discharged in 13 seconds. Although reports said it was a volley fire that lasted several minutes, but I'm calling bullshit on that. It was definitely a chaotic, like, oh shit, hits the fan, pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, you hear the gunshot sound and you're training, and then you shoot. 60 and but they just
Into the crowd.
They aimed it. They heard
Yeah,
a
into
shot,
the
and they're
crowd.
like, "Well, it must have been from there," and then just started
Yeah.
murdering college kids.
Some guardsmen stated that they feared for their lives, but this was heavily questioned due to the distance between the students and the guardsmen. So after the shots cleared, 4 were dead, 9 were wounded. One of those being wounded would be like permanently paralyzed, so might as well have been dead too, right?
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
saying that you
kill
can't
me.
live but it's a substantial enough wound that your life is forever
No,
altered.
right? They ruined that person's life. They
ruined
they
that person's
took
life.
away something that they could never give back to that.
Now I'm gonna
person.
list the dead, what they were doing, and how far they were away. So the first one, not the first one, but the first one on my list is Jeffrey Miller, who was a protester who was shot 265 feet away through the mouth.
I
And
thought
died
you were gonna
instantly.
say 265 times.
No. He was shot. His body was 265 feet away from the National Guardmen. Shot
That's
through the mouth. And died
almost a
instantly.
football field.
Yep. Allison Krauss was a protester who was shot 343 feet away into the chest and would die on the scene.
Slightly more than a football field.
slightly more than a football field. William Schroeder was just on campus, not protesting, 382 feet away, was fatally shot in the chest and died at the hospital several hours later. He was also a member of the ROTC. So, way to go, good guys, you shot your own guy.
So he was just walking in the background?
He's walking to a class. He's walking to class.
He's like, God damn, this protest got in my way of my normal walking routine. And
He's
I'm walking
an
to class.
ROTC.
And I'm an ROTC.
Oh,
hey guys, maybe I'll see you next weekend. And then he gets shot and then
in the chest and
dies.
Yep. Sandra Schuer, also not protesting, was on campus 390 feet away, gets shot in the neck and would die on the scene. Everyone that was shot was between the ages of 19 and 20, in good standing at the school, and the closest one shot to any guard was 71 feet away. So even at 71 feet, that's still a good distance, especially when you have fixed bayonets. Your life is in imminent danger.
Also, especially when you are up against unarmed protesters.
Yeah.
Why do you need to shoot from... Why? But
you're gonna get more mad, Johnny. You're gonna get more mad. So the aftermath. Only one guardsman was injured on May 4th during the protest that was substantial enough that required any kind of medical treatment.
Now I imagine that happened before they started shooting.
Yes, it happened. It happened well before they started shooting, and he was injured by getting hit with a rock. And it was minor injuries, nothing life-threatening, and nothing that required any kind of like hospitalization or anything else like that. He got cracked.
Right. Again, don't agree with throwing the rocks. Don't do that. That's a dick move.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Maybe we can check our responses. In this.
Yeah. Well. Photos of the event would spread like wildfire and become the rallying call for further Vietnam War protests, as they should, because you shot you shot unarmed people, and some of which were innocent, not protesting, just happened to be on campus walking to their classes. Kent State
it's not even that they shot; they just shot, randomly.
Yeah.
Towards a direction.
Towards a direction, yeah. Kent State was closed for 6 weeks, or AKA the rest of the semester, because it's May, so like you just close the rest of the school year early, like whatever.
May
450, May term. 450 universities in the U.S. would ban both peaceful and non-peaceful protests, which is hilarious to me because I would assume you would have always banned non-peaceful protests, but they banned both.
That seems like something that you might want to do off the top, is be like, guys, maybe we do not have violent protests here that result in death. But I guess it's good to just have it on the books.
Yeah, it's on the books. On May 8th, my birthday, not 1970, but my birthday, 11 students would be bayoneted at a protest at the University of New Mexico by the New Mexico National Guard. So we're protesting and we're going to pokey.
Again,
5 days.
Folks, this is 1970. 1970.
Not 1770. Not 1770.
1970. 50 years ago, your parents were alive, no doubt.
Yep.
And
no doubt.
They are bayoneting people.
Yep. 5 days after the shootings, 100,000 protesters would gather in D.C. over these shootings. A Gallup poll after the shooting would show that 58% of Americans blame the students, which is not surprising when you live in America. Although, again, they were throwing rocks. You should expect...
Right, yes. You don't throw rocks. But you know what else you don't do, Tommy? They had tear gas. And you know they didn't shoot? Tear gas. You know what they did shoot?
They shot real bullets.
Live bullets that'll kill people.
Yep, they sure did. 25 students and non-students would be arrested for actions that took place on or before May 4th, known as the Kent State 25. Only 5 would actually wind up going to trial. So 20 right off the bat would be dismissed because, well...
What do you have?
Lack of evidence.
Yeah, well, they were executing their First Amendment rights of protest.
Well, you can't, but you still can't throw rocks. But anyway.
But prove they threw a rock, Tom.
Right, yeah. So the 5 that went to trial, one was a non-student who was convicted. 2 non-students pled guilty. 1 student was acquitted, and another student that was charged was completely dismissed. So out of those 5 that actually went to trial, only 3 wound up getting any kind of jail time.
Yeah.
5 guardsmen were indicted on felony charges, and all were between the ages of 28 and 30, so they're a little bit older. So you're right. This is like your high school teacher that joined the National Guard to pay off a college.
Yeah. Right. They're doing that in order to get the loan. Like they're not people who are like,
They're not.
I'm a
career
highly
soldiers,
trained
though.
person. I have good skills at processing information. I'm quick to perceive and all this stuff. They're just
And
dudes
keep in
and
mind,
chicks that
our
wanna pay for college.
our highly trained, actual military, murdered 375 innocent South Vietnamese who were supposed to be our allies in the My Lai massacre a few months back. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd want the professional military showing up either. But in any case, those 5 guardsmen were indicted on felony charges, and absolutely no convictions were obtained because it's America. And yep. Civil suits were all granted to the defendants who brought them forth to Ohio, and Ohio wound up having to pay out $675,000 or $4.5 million today. So not
Nothing.
bad restitution, but not a lot. And then you
I'm
also have
sorry,
to figure
Tom.
out-
You have one of your children killed by a bayonet
that's
or
not
a
enough.
bullet or whatever the hell, and you tell me that because of that, that's not what everybody got.
But
the
yeah,
$30,000
that's the total,
you
yeah.
receive is good
that's not enough.
compensation.
No, it's not enough. And to make matters worse, Ohio's paying that, but where does Ohio get that money? From you, the taxpayer.
Yeah.
So essentially, you just paid yourself for them shooting your kid.
You got a tax break for them
And this is-
murdering your child. You got
And this is
a
where-
$30,000 tax break.
Now, up to this point, I definitely don't agree with the shooting. The shooting is definitely not anywhere near like what the
Right.
like. I understand why the Boston Massacre happened, and I would not have convicted any of the soldiers of Britain for the Boston Massacre for what happened. In this particular situation, as of what we know right now, it's a little bit worse than the Boston Massacre. I think the people that actually fired the rounds, or at least the sergeant who fired those first set of rounds, should have been held accountable. The
Yeah,
rest of them, I can kind of say, maybe it was a response because, I heard a gunshot, oh shit, bang, bang, bang.
Right.
kind of
There's
thing.
a lot of that. Yeah.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem I have, because this is what's really going to piss you off. So in 2007, buried in the Yale Library archives, there was discovered a 30-minute reel-to-reel recording of the event that was found. It was originally recorded by a Terry Strube, who was a communication student.
I'm sorry. Buried?
Yeah, there was an audio recording of the event.
And
30 minutes.
and
It
the
was recorded.
prosecution, the trial, everything that happened afterwards.
Well, I don't know if it was. I don't know. It's unclear as to whether this was presented during any of the trials or anything like that. But it was found in Yale, in their archives.
Go on. What was found?
There's this, It was Terry Strube, who was a communication student at Kent, who recorded it. In the recording, when it's with modern technology amped up and analyzed, you hear an officer, Lawrence Schaefer, say, and I quote, "Right here, get set, point, fire." There was a command given by the National Guard officer to shoot. This is where I have the problem.
To aim and
Now,
shoot.
granted,
Not only
to aim and shoot. Yeah.
to aim, to point in a direction intentionally and fire.
This audio happened 70 seconds after what you hear what sounds like 4 shots coming from a pistol, which is what all
everybody said was happening. It was that bang, 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 and then everybody's like, I don't know what to do, and started shooting, is what the story was.
So basically, you hear 4 bangs that allegedly came from Myron Pryor, and then you hear the order, aim and fire, essentially, that happens about 70 seconds later. The audio
that's a minute and 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Anybody who has been dealing with some shit over this quarantine and has been like, maybe I should meditate or whatever, sit down for a minute of silence. A minute and 10 seconds. Sit down and don't do anything.
It's a long time.
That's a long time.
Which would follow suit with the spectators, like the shots happened for over a minute. As opposed to the official report that said it happened for like 60 seconds. Now, the audio was deemed to be legit by several independent audio analysts. That said, yep,
this
it's
was
legit.
not something that was Photoshop type or audio shot, whatever. It was
but the
an original recording.
but the It was an original recording that is legit, but the FBI says that the pistol shots could have been anything, could have been door slamming, and that the voices were not intelligible enough beyond a reasonable doubt. So in 2010, the government determined that there was too much insurmountable odds to reopen up a case, and it was dropped, despite having audio recording of an event that at least alluded to an order being given. So if there was an actual legitimate order being given, this is way worse than the Boston Massacre. They committed fucking murder at
So
that
what
point.
you're telling me is, what, 40 years after it happened, the United States government decided that there wasn't enough evidence against the United States government for performing these actions to go ahead and convict the United States government of any sort of wrongdoing.
Yeah, isn't that fun? Because in the United States, you can only sue the United States government if the United States government decides to let you sue them.
What the God? And so
Now,
they're
there were
just
some
allowed to continue, and then years later, of course,
So-
because this pretext has been set that officers of the law, military, whoever else, you can do whatever the hell you want during a riot and get away
Kinda
with
get away
it.
with
And so maybe they start
that's-
firing tear gas canisters into the chests of protesters and just do it all willy-nilly because, hey, they got their masks on,
Now-
they got their helmets on, they got their goggles on. Nobody can see who the hell they
could-
are. They're
yeah,
just an
right,
anonymous
right.
thing, and the government will cover up for them years later.
Yeah, weird.
Now, I don't like this. I didn't like this.
Nope. I know you
didn't
didn't
like
like it,
this.
Johnny. I'm sorry. Now, the only good thing that came out of this, if you can call it good, is that the use of M1 Grands and bayonets. That ends. Like the National Guard decides that maybe we don't want to respond to protesters with lethal force, and so they use less than lethal force.
Right, and that's
AKA
fantastic. And so
rubber,
they took
they
took it down to
yeah,
so they want to know what they did was they took it down from bayonets to
rubber bullets.
well,
Which, by the way, I say
also-
less than lethal. It's important. I say less than lethal because not non-lethal,
Oh, no,
less
no,
than
no.
lethal
Yeah.
because if you shoot a rubber bullet into a guy's head, they're still gonna die. So,
or if you hit the right person in the chest. But they took their bayonets and they turned them into the spring-loaded batons.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
holy
Which you
shit, have
just-
you seen those?
just whack? Yeah,
Yeah,
you hit 'em
just
with 'em.
yeah. I mean, you're just breaking bones. And yeah, rubber bullets and tear gas canister attachments for shotguns.
Yep.
Not
So-
specific guns designed to harmlessly deploy tear gas canisters. Just shotguns
Shotguns. Yeah, yeah.
that have been adapted to fire them into a crowd.
So, like last week's episode, your government loves you.
All right, that's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And join us next week when we talk about Shiloh.